I'm John Hargrave, CEO of Media Shower. Welcome to our Better Communication series. We've talked about what we do. Now, here's how we do it. As we discussed, communication has changed, and today we have to communicate in the language that people use and in the places where they consume information. Let's say, for example, that you're in the market for a new car. You will probably Google new car reviews or best auto ratings. And you probably won't deep dive into that content. You'll have a bunch of different tabs open, and you'll be picking out relevant bits of information. You'll be scanning. You'll be swiping. This is how people consume information today. So to communicate effectively, we got to be in all those channels. And that means working with two things. We'll call that consistency and persistency. That's not a word, but they do rhyme. One pro tip is when it rhymes, people are more likely to remember it. Consistency and persistency. Think about this brand. All the times you've seen this brand in your life. You don't even have to see the full logo for this rich set of associations to be evoked in your mind. That is consistency and persistency over the course of your life, communicating about that brand. Or think about a symbol like this one and the set of feelings and memories and images that it evokes, both positive and negative. That is communication over the course of your lifetime. Think about an idea like Black Friday. Who invented Black Friday? Nobody owns Black Friday. It's just this idea that we all decided to do on the day to kick off the holiday shopping season. Nobody owns it, but it's been communicated and repeated to you again and again and again through all these different communication channels. And today, this is what we call open source communication. The idea behind open source, like open source software development, is that nobody owns it. We all own it. It's free to use. It's free for anyone to distribute. And increasingly, this is the future of communication, making it widely, broadly available for everybody to share themselves. Now, we give up some control when we do that. We no longer own the message in the same way that we used to. But now it's available for everyone. And that can help our message go much, much wider. As we discussed, the nature of communication has changed. In the past, you had a big ad campaign. The Super Bowl was the kind of mecca of TV advertisers. This giant broadcast campaign that went out to everyone in one shot. But increasingly today, it's all about light, cheap campaigns that can be rapidly turned around and rapidly distributed using the power of the crowd. Instead of broadcast, it's broadly available. That means everybody can share it on social media and in their blogs and in their videos. We're making it available for everyone using this kind of open source ethos. Everybody owns it. Nobody owns it. We all own it. Now, to create this content, we need to have what we call at Media Shower, the assembly line. We need to have some way of producing the content with consistency and persistency. And in our Media Shower system, we have a few different parts to this assembly line run by different people. This is an important concept. So I'm going to spend some time talking about the strategy, which is the high-level overview of what we are trying to communicate. What's the high-level message that we're trying to get out to the world? Then it comes to ideas. Ideas would be, from that strategy, what are the ideas for specific blog posts or videos or social media tweets that we're going to be sending out to support that strategy? Writing is creating the content itself. This is the real work of actually creating that content. And from there, it goes into an editorial process where the editor is reviewing it to make sure it matches the strategy, as well as doing a final QA check on that content. And from there to publishing. That's where it goes out to, for example, our client websites or their newsletters or their social media feeds. This is the assembly line. And when we work with new clients, the first month or two is spent getting this assembly line working for their system and their company. So to be clear, we manage all of this first part in our Media Shower platform. And this last part, the publishing, is where we then integrate with our clients' blogs or websites or newsletters. And this is where it typically gets a little tricky. That's the part where the bottlenecks in the production process often arise. But by and large, this entire system works really, really well for consistency and persistency. Now let's talk about who owns each of these parts of the assembly line. It starts with an editor who puts together for the strategy a communication plan. The communication plan is basically saying, who are we writing for? And what is the message we're trying to tell them? If you're a company, what do you do? Can you explain that in 2 or 3 sentences in plain language? Something that our grandmothers would understand. That's a big part of the value we bring, is just helping simplify these very complicated concepts. Then we put together the golden keywords. So these are the search terms or search keywords, the things that somebody would be typing into a search engine who's looking for that product or service. So for example, if you're a company that produces content management systems, the keywords might be things like how much does a content management system cost, or best CMS systems, or content management system ratings, etc., etc. So we put together up to 100 of those, and from there, we do a content roadmap. A content roadmap is taking those ideas now, those keywords, and starting to flesh out a high-level 3 to 6 month plan on where we're going. That's the strategy piece. Then we start creating the ideas. So the editor puts this in our Media Shower system on a weekly basis, the ideas, which are usually a title and a description. So we've gone from very high level down to tactical pieces of content that we're now going to create. Those get assigned to a writer, a content creator, and produced and delivered in our Media Shower platform. From there, it goes back to the editor, who reviews it, puts on that final polish, and if it looks good, sends it off to the client. If not, they send it back to the writer for revisions, and then it comes back to the editor until finally it goes to production, where we put it on the client blog or into their promotion assembly line. That's the process from start to finish. This is how we get both quality as well as quantity, consistency plus persistency. And you need both. You need both because one rule of content is the 80-20 rule. 20% of your content is going to drive 80% of your results. And this is true pretty much for everybody, no matter how big the brand, no matter how small your operation. 20% of your content drives 80% of your results. However, you don't know which 20% it's going to be. If you did, this would all be simple. So a handful of blog posts are going to go supernova and end up delivering a ton of traffic, and everything else, not so much. But you gotta try a lot of stuff in order to find out what works. Now, the more content you create, the more traffic you're going to get to your website. We call this the leads funnel in marketing speak. We call it a funnel because a lot of people are coming to your site, and a smaller percentage of them are then converting or turning into a lead, like a sales lead. That means you're getting their name and their email address and their information so you can follow up, and some of those will become customers. That's called the funnel. The more content you have, the more leads you get. So if you produce even more content or even more content, you get even more leads and you get even more customers and you grow your business faster. Now, this is common sense, but the bottleneck is no more than your assembly line can handle. So even though it's common sense that the more content you're going to have, the more leads you're going to have, the more customers and the bigger your business is going to grow, it does us no good if the client can't handle all the content we're producing. So we have to find the right balance of just enough content that they can keep it going and keep it promoted well. And yet at the same time, we can get as much through as possible. So in summary, every post is like a little mini experiment. You're trying to see what works. And quantity matters, because when someone comes to your blog or to your website, they don't want to see that you posted something back in 2018 and never posted again. They want to know that you're a company that starts work and then sees it through. It also says we're financially strong enough to pay people to create content for us. It also says to them, we're a company that delivers good work consistently. And that's quality. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing well. Quality is one of our 5 founding values, and we'll be discussing those next, as well as the values that you can infuse in your work to make it even more powerful. I hope you'll join us.